The Braves are in town at Fenway Park for a quick two-game series before the Red Sox hit the road again to play the Chicago White Sox. But with the Braves in town and Chris Sale back in town, had to bring on Foolish Baseball. Bailey Freeman joining us, one of the best YouTubers for baseball, the guy that I love getting a lot of baseball knowledge from. And Bailey, let's start with the Chris Sale aspect of all of this, right? Because the Sox trade him away. He obviously did so many great things with the Red Sox, winning a World Series, but then a lot of injury-plagued seasons. And now he's back to dominating with the Braves again. I know his last start wasn't great, but he was the National League Pitcher of the Month. How have you enjoyed the way the Chris Sale trade has played out? And are you surprised by the way it's played out so far?
Uh, I've enjoyed it. And from the Braves side, in terms of receiving Chris Sale, I am actually not surprised. I was pretty hyped on him coming into the season. And I think if you look at what Chris Sale did last year in a Red Sox uniform, he's kind of proven that when he is healthy and when he's actually pitching, he's still the same guy. Last year with the Red Sox, he was still striking out 28, 29, 30% of the batters he's faced. And he's come over to the Braves. There's really been no change in his pitch mix or pitch shape. It's still the same guy, but what he's getting are simply better results. He's been healthy, he's posted, and he's been pitching deep into games. He has over 6 innings pitched per start, which is not an easy thing to come by in the league in 2024, especially, given the rash of other pitching injuries. And I think it just kind of goes to show, to some extent, injuries aren't as predictable a thing as some people think they are. And people can be labeled injury prone, and you will keep that label until you have a full healthy season. I remember there was a time where people thought Aaron Judge was incapable of having a full healthy season. Then he set the American League home run record. So, there are, things that we think we understand about the game. There are players we want to give that label to, and sometimes they shake that label.
And the guy that the Red Sox obviously got back in the trade, Vaughn Grissom, he had a great run in the Braves minor league system. And I know he got to play the big leagues for a couple of years. So far this year, it hasn't panned out, and he's back on the IL with another hamstring strain. What did you think of him when he was in the Braves system? And are you surprised by the way he's struggled so far with the Red Sox?
I am surprised by the way he has struggled, particularly offensively. He was known for his bat coming up through the minors, great bat to ball skills, and I'm surprised that that hasn't manifested itself. I always figured he would be, an average or above average hitter at the big league level, and that hasn't quite happened for the Red Sox yet, safe to say. The reason the Braves move on from him in the first place, which I supported at the time, is because they didn't see him defensively as a fit at shortstop. And they have, Austin Riley locked up. They have Ozzie Albies locked up. They have Matt Olson locked up. So if he was going to play infield, it was going to have to be shortstop, and that didn't turn out to be the case. So I wasn't surprised that the Braves moved on from him. I think he was mentioned very clearly as a trade candidate going into this past offseason. But I am disappointed by the performance, particularly with the bat, because I did think he was definitely going to hit at the very least. I just wasn't sure what the defensive fit would be.
I want to hit on the macro level views of both these teams. I'll start with your Braves. And obviously, we won't have a chance to see Ronald Acuna in this series against the Red Sox at Fenway. He's out for the season with another ACL injury. I wanted to reference a tweet that you had in October of last year. I have to clean it up just a little bit. It was, "This Braves roster needs to get worse." That's the edited version of your tweet, in order to recapture the magic of 2021. So, can they do that? Can this Braves team, despite not having Ronald Acuna, can they still be a World Series bound team like they were in 2021?
I mean, they absolutely can. The roster, I would say, is still probably more talented than it was in 2021. It's just the team in 2021, they had the juice. They had that thing that can't be captured with stats. So the way I see it, the Braves are in an interesting position. They could sort of position themselves in the same way that the Phillies have the past couple of years, where now they get to play the role of the underdog, and maybe they squeak in on a wild card, right? And maybe they make some noise in the playoffs. I'm not so sure, though, because, even though the Phillies have a division lead, and even though I would say the Phillies roster, considering the Braves don't have Strider or Acuna, I would say the Phillies roster right now is probably better on paper than the Braves. I would like to see them, sort of still embrace the mentality that this is their division, right? And really, just go toe to toe and still believe that they can be the best team in the National League, and not just a team that lucks into, a hot playoff run. So that's kind of how I see the Braves. The tricky thing with them has been they just haven't scored runs. Especially as of late. Since May 1st, they are 29th in runs scored in Major League Baseball. Only the White Sox have scored fewer runs. And the starting pitching has been wonderful, but the offense needs to get going, because this was a record-setting offense last year that returned largely the same personnel.
Yeah, and if you look at the baseball reference, it's a surprise at how many OPSs are below 800. Obviously, there's still a lot of time left in the season. You obviously follow this sport from a national level. If anybody's seen your baseball bits videos, you cover basically everything, and same goes for what you cover on your X profile as well. Curious what you think of this Red Sox team and what you've thought of them these last couple of years, especially post Mookie Betts. And here they are, 60 games into the season this year, and back at 500, which is kind of where they've sat the last couple of years.
Yeah, I like what Craig Breslow's doing. I see the long-term goals and even some of the, smaller pieces that he added. Like, I know Tyler O'Neill has been injured, and that's unfortunate, but I feel like Tyler O'Neill and Alex Verdugo were both corner outfielders with 1 year left on their deal. And I feel like when he traded away Verdugo, he got more in return than what he gave up to get O'Neill. So I like that piece of business. I think what's exciting for the Red Sox in the future is that I think they have one of the absolute best farm systems, and there's a lot of exciting prospects that are going to make a big league impact soon for them. Maybe not now, maybe not even this year, but soon enough. But in the short term, the way I look at it, I think the most impressive development has been on the starting pitching front and I guess you can credit Andrew Bailey with that, because Cutter Crawford's been awesome, Tanner Houck's been awesome, and I think they just need to find a way in terms of their rotation to get guys pitching deeper into games or add guys who can eat more innings, because I think on a per inning basis, their starting rotation is one of the best, but I don't know if they have that ability to pitch deep into the games, and that's going to cause a strain on the bullpen as the season goes along.
All right, one more thing before we let you go here, Bailey. Going at your baseball bits videos, again, I'm a huge fan of them. Red Sox based, I know you have one on David Ortiz and one on Pedro Martinez, and if the fans haven't had a chance to check those out, you definitely need to on Foolish Baseball YouTube page. Is there another Red Sox based one that you've always been curious about making, or if you had to think about it, what would be one that would be maybe fun to put together?
A historical one would be interesting. And I've looked back at Red Sox history. They had I guess I would characterize him as a stopper, but his name was Dick Radatz. Dick Radatz was an absolutely dominant stopper for the Red Sox, had some crazy strikeout seasons for a reliever. And this was back, in I think like the 50s and 60s. And so I like to kind of dig into the minutia. And that is a player that's always interested me, because I think he's sort of the proto, what we saw Andrew Miller do in the 2016 playoffs. So we've seen a lot of teams utilize multi-inning relievers in the highest leverage spots. And I think he is representative of that, 50, 60 years ago.
All right, so there you have it, guys. Maybe we can look out for one of those at some point in the near future. But Bailey, really appreciate the time. Again, a huge fan of your content. You do great work. You do a great job promoting the game of baseball, and it should be a fun series at Fenway. Thanks for joining us.
All right, thanks for having me, Joe.